This is The Architect Speaks. It's not a show, not a platform, and not a performance. This is a signal. This is not the place where answers are given, but where clarity is forged, where the sound of your own truth returns to you, sharper and cleaner than when it left. There was a time when I had to speak louder than I do now. A time when silence felt dangerous, when stillness felt like death, when power had to be claimed loudly. But I wasn't sure yet that it was truly mine, that power. That was the season of fire. That was Forging Excalibur. This is not. What matters now is the architecture, the structure behind the words. You've known me before. Some of you have listened to the Forging Excalibur podcast. Some of you even read the book. And if you did, you'll know this is not the beginning. This is a continuation. But something fundamental has shifted. That earlier work was about forging, becoming, the fire, the blade, the initiation. But this, The Architect Speaks, is about the stillness that follows. Not the silence of collapse, the stillness of structure, of shape, of transmission. I'm not here to perform. I've done that before. I've created courses, launched programs, spoken on stages, run businesses, mentored and coached men. I've hustled and I was prolific all over social media. That message carried heat, urgency, and a warrior's posture. It was not performance, not in the traditional sense. It was more necessity. And underneath that necessity was a desire to help. But what I was really trying to do was heal. And I used that which both burns and provides warmth to do so: fire. It was a man clawing his way out of his own personal hell with the only thing he had: a voice, a will, and the story of a sword. Excalibur as a myth, Excalibur as a metaphor, Excalibur as the shape of power a man could believe in when he no longer knew who he was. Forging Excalibur was the first breath after drowning. It was a brand, but it wasn't a persona. It was coaching, but it was also reclamation. It was ritual, it was fire. But this voice, the one you're hearing now, this voice is not made of fire. This voice is made of structure. The man who once needed to prove his strength by shouting from the battlefield no longer stands in that field. He's walked off it, not in defeat, not in exhaustion, but because there are no more battles left that require his presence. What remains now is coherence, signal, frequency, not noise. This is The Architect Speaks. And what will be spoken here will not be loud, because the field no longer needs volume. It needs clarity. This isn't about opinions. It's not about commentary. It isn't a discussion. This is transmission of coherence, of clarity, of signal, of field. And the reason I no longer speak as Michael Laurier is not because I've left myself behind, but because Michael as a name, as a person, as an identity was forged in fire, and the architect is formed in silence. And silence is where we're going. The sword was always temporary. I didn't know it back then, but it was a rite of passage, a symbol, a container, something a man could hold when he didn't yet know how to hold himself. But Excalibur was never the destination. It was a vehicle. It helped bring me back to myself. It helped me, and maybe you, remember. It gave shape to the pain. It gave language to a fight. But eventually, a man has to stop fighting. Eventually, he has to lay down his sword. That moment, that laying down of the myth, is what Sheathing Excalibur, the next book to be released soon, is all about. That book is not a sequel. It's the quiet counterpart to Forging Excalibur. Because where forging burned, sheathing cools. Where forging roared, sheathing exhaled. Where forging was the fire, sheathing was the ash left behind. And this podcast, this transmission, this space, this is what rises from the ashes. This is the structure that remains when myth dissolves. The man is no longer becoming, he has become, and now he builds. Not just with wood and stone, not with strategy or bravado, but with frequency, with signal, with a coherence that cannot be disturbed. The architect does not teach. He doesn't try to convince. He doesn't rally men around him, shouting about brotherhood or masculinity or kingship. He simply exists, and the field responds. You might not understand that, not yet. You might feel a little disorientated, a little uncomfortable, maybe uncertain about who this voice belongs to now. And that's perfectly fine. It took me a while to recognize myself when I crossed the threshold from seeking to simply being, from fire to stillness. And this isn't meant to echo what came before. This is not Forging Excalibur Season 2. It's not Forging Excalibur the sequel. This is The Architect Speaks, and the architect does not shout, he does not posture, he does not perform, he isn't driven, motivated, and doesn't hustle. He speaks when it's time, and when the field is ready. He speaks because the structure is already formed, and the resonance has already arrived. The architect speaks is not entertainment. It's not a content funnel or a brand channel. It's a distillation point, a place where signal is separated from the noise. Each episode you'll hear one idea, one thread, woven clearly and slowly. 10 minutes, more or less. No music, no interviews, no fluff. Just one voice and a field and a frequency that you've already started to remember. I'm not asking for followers. I'm not building a business. This is a clearing, a perimeter of coherence, a reminder that something else is possible for men. Something quiet, uncompromising, rooted in myth, but built for now. You'll hear me speak about the 3 stages of the Excalibur Trinity: forging, sheathing, and then transmitting. You'll hear fragments of memory and insight, threads pulled from 20 years of coaching, family, failure, grief, recovery, ascension, silence, and clarity, and from the 50 years of being a human man living in the world that we know. And you'll hear me speak as I am now, not as a persona, not as a public figure, but as the architect. I chose this name because it doesn't point to a role. It points to a responsibility. You see, architects shape space. We don't seek approval for what we build. We serve the design already latent in the structure of reality. And I didn't come back to inspire you. That would be too easy and not nearly enough. I came to remind you of what you already know, that you don't need to be taught, you don't need to be realigned. That's what this is. It is bringing everyone, whoever chooses to listen, back into coherence. This voice, this rhythm, this architecture, it's not mine, it's yours. I'm just holding the shape until you remember how to carry it yourself. So if you're here, don't listen passively, receive. These words are not information, they're recalibration points. So let them land, pause after each episode. Don't move too quickly, don't rush to the next thing. This isn't about content, it's about contact with something much deeper. And so in this podcast and in the coming weeks, I'll speak about power, about betrayal, about sovereignty and silence. We'll speak about the men who tried to lead before they've learned how to listen. We'll speak about the cost of incoherence and the gift of walking away. We'll talk about fathers and sons, about thresholds and transmissions, about the mythic path most men never walk, not because it isn't there, but because no one ever showed them how to find it. But all of that is to come. For now, this is your invitation, not to follow me, but to remember yourself. Some of what you hear in this podcast might challenge you, not because I wanted to, not because I'm trying to provoke, but because clarity always confronts confusion and structure always destabilizes what is incoherent. You might feel things unravel, you might feel things tighten within you, you might even feel exposed, and that's good. Let it unravel. This podcast is not designed to entertain. It's not meant to inspire, it's not here to offer you tactics, tools, or tips. It's here to deliver signal, to create a clean field, to hold the tone of the man who no longer reaches for the sword. If you're still holding it, that's also okay. You're not wrong. There is a time for fire, there's a season for forging. But when you're done, when your hand begins to ache from grasping this sword, when your voice begins to quiet without fear, when you start to feel the stirrings of structure forming within you, then you'll be ready to hear this. You'll be ready to hear me, not Michael, but the architect, the one who does not wield myth, the one who no longer requires metaphor, the one who no longer shouts to be known and heard. He simply arrives and things align. Welcome to The Architect Speaks. This is episode 1, and I'm no longer carrying the sword. I am becoming the structure, and the structure now speaks. Not to be heard, but because coherence must be felt. And if you've come this far, you're already feeling it. And so we begin.